order in the court, hauls the leaders of his people into the dock. You've played havoc with this country. Your houses are stuffed with what you've stolen from the poor. What is this anyway? Stomping on my people, grinding the faces of the poor into the dirt. That's what the Master God of Angels says. God says Zion women are stuck up, prancing around in their high heels, making eyes at all the men in the street, swinging their hips, tossing their hair, gaudy and garish and cheap jewelry. The Master will fix it so those Zion women will turn bald. The Master's going to do it. The time is coming when the Master will strip them of their fancy baubles and the dangling earrings and the anklets and the bracelets and the combs and the mirrors and the silk scarves, diamond brooches, pearl necklaces, the rings on their fingers and the rings on their toes, the latest fashions and hats, exotic perfumes, aphrodisiacs, gowns and capes, all the world's finest in fabrics and designs. Instead of wearing seductive scents, these women are going to smell like cabbages. Instead of modeling flowing gowns, they'll be sporting rags. Instead of stylish hairdos, scuffy heads. Instead of beauty marks, scabs and scars. Oh, and don't you think that it's just the women. Your finest fighting men will be killed, your soldiers left dead on the battlefield. The entrance gate to Zion will be clouded with people mourning their dead. A city stooped under the weight of her loss, brought to her knees by her sorrows. That will be the day when 7 women will gang up on one man saying, "We'll take care of ourselves, get our own food and clothes, just give us a child, make us pregnant, so we'll have something to live for." And that's when God's branch will spout green and lush. The produce of the country will give Israel's survivors something to be proud about again. Oh, they'll even hold their heads up high. Everyone left behind in Zion, all the discards and the rejects in Jerusalem will be reclassified as holy, alive, and therefore precious. God will give Zion's women a good bath. He'll scrub the blood-stained city of its violence and brutality, purge the place with a firestorm of judgment. Then God will bring back the ancient pillar of cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night, and mark Mount Zion and everyone in it with his glorious presence, his immense protective presence, shade from the burning sun and shelter from the driving rain. All this wrath, and yet God still, what does God do?
He comes back.
He comes back and
forgives them.
And
And
sends
loves them.
of his son.
yes, he comes back and forgives them.
Wonder what period of time goes from that.
Oh, I don't know. That probably, probably a good 100 years. I think it's
A
100
lot of
years.
people would starve in
Yeah.
100 years.
Yeah. Think about what they did, wandering in the desert for 40 years, right? So that the old generation could not go into the promised land, the new one could. And the new one had a new outlook on life with God, and God loved them.
Do you think this part of Isaiah is why the Quakers dress the way they do? Very, very simple, no adornment whatsoever?
Oh, it could. Yeah, it could. I think all throughout the Bible, it tells us not to be haughty. Cover your head. It does say that, but be understated. Don't be making people feel out of place. Even Paul talks about that. But the Quakers take that. I don't know if it's this particular section, but the Quakers take that to heart and everybody looks the same.
The cult that came here in the 80s to Lake City, the women wore no jewelry and very plain,
Uh-huh,
home-sewn clothing.
yeah. Mennonite-like, Quaker-like, yeah,
Yeah, the Amish do that too.
Yep.
yeah. So, we're gonna be on 5, right? Well, I really flew through that. Any questions about what we've just talked about? It's pretty straightforward. I mean, but the message is, God is angry. God, in a sense, smites them, and then
Forgives.
still loves them and forgives them. All they have to do is come back. All they have to do is come back. And he helps them with that. Looking for a crop of justice. This is the Vineyard song. Yeah, and this is where he's summoning those distant people. I'll sing a ballad to the one I love. Who's the one I love?
God,
Well,
God. Yeah.
the one I love had a vineyard, yes. A fine, well-placed vineyard. He hoed the soil and pulled the weeds and planted the very best vines. He built a lookout, built a wine press and a vineyard to be proud of. He looked at the vineyard yield of grapes, but for all the pains, he got junk grapes. Who are the junk grapes?
People.
Yeah, yeah. Now listen to what I'm telling you. You live in Jerusalem and Judah. What do you think is going on between me and my vineyard? Can you think of anything I could have done to my vineyard that I didn't do? God gave everything, right?
Yep.
He planted it, he watered it, he weeded it, he hoed it, he harvested it, and yet the grapes were still not good. They were bitter. What I expected was good grapes. What did I get? Bitter grapes. Well, now let me tell you what I'll do to my vineyard. I'm going to tear down its fence and let it go ruin. I'll knock down the gate and let it be trampled. I'll turn it into a patch of weeds, unintended, uncared for. Thistles and thorns will take over. I'll give orders to the clouds. Don't rain on this vineyard ever. Do you get it? The vineyard of the God of the angel armies is the country of Israel. And all the men and women of Judah and the garden he was so proud of. He looked for a crop of justice and saw them murdering each other. He looked at the harvest of righteousness and heard only the moans of the victims.
Yeah, I know, it's happening again.
Yeah,
What's that?
it's happening again.
It's happening again. Killing each other.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's a vicious cycle.
This is the poetry of the song, and they're probably singing about what chapter 4 or 3 was.
That's correct.
It's probably a repeat.
It's probably a
just
repeat. That's
a
right.
song of
Yes.
verse.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It keeps going in circles. Isaiah will start out on a point, move, and then go back to that point, and go back, and the circle gets wider and wider and wider. And that's how the the writers of the Old Testament, the prophets, would write. They would write in a circular pattern, a spiral, right? In Greek and modern times, what do? We kind of overlay things on top of it, but we don't do circles. This is full circle because everything's on a continuum. We get good, we get bad. We get good, we get bad. We get good. God calls, we respond. God calls, so it's one continuous circle. And if you really think about it, it really makes a lot of sense. You know, if you have this interweaving thing, it's okay, but you always come back to the starting point again. And a circle is the best way to signify that.
It's kind of depressing though, isn't it? To think, I mean,
We just
everything,
don't
we're
learn.
good, and then all of a sudden we're bad, and then we come back
We
and we
just don't
behave
learn.
ourselves.
Well,
and
we-
then
We just don't learn.
I know,
We don't learn.
yeah.
We repeat history, we repeat the bad behavior, we repeat, you know, it's,
Wouldn't you think we would learn?
well, yeah, you would think. But
Yeah.
then we get it in our heads that we know better,
Yeah,
so. I've got that cool air coming down right here.
right,
no.
yeah. We know that happens in the sanctuary too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Certain places, yeah,
yes.
yes.
Um,
Trade places, it's on fire.
Yeah, I'm not cold on that.
And here's something that, and this has happened throughout history, now that we're talking about circular history. This has happened all through civilization. Doom to you who buy up all the houses and grab up all the land for yourselves. Evicting the old owners, passing no trespassing signs. What happens is that people invest in real estate.
yep,
They buy it, and then all of a sudden that changes. In about 30 years, every 30 years, a new cycle comes around. And real estate prices go crazy. Then they go bad. And they get all gobbled up by the people that have a lot of money. And that's what's been happening in our country over the last 5 years. Corporations are buying the houses, buying the land, buying whatnot, and driving the prices up so that people can't live. They can't rent. They can't, I mean, rent prices are, I mean, outrageous. We looked at renting before we bought the house here, but we, thankfully, you know, the committee found the house we're in now. But we were looking around and I thought, I'm paying more in rent than I was in a mortgage. This is silly.
yep.
But thank goodness I had the money to be able to put a down payment down. There are people that don't have that money and they have to just keep shelling out money
Yep.
every month. But what ends up happening is people buy the houses, evict the old owners, and that wealth starts to get whatever. So doom to you who buy up all the houses, grab all the land for yourselves, evicting the old owners, passing no trespassing signs, taking over the country, leaving everyone homeless and landless. I overheard God of the angel army say those mighty houses will end up empty. Those extravagant estates will be deserted. A 10-acre vineyard will produce a pint of wine, a 50-pound sack of seed, a quart of grain. Whew. Doomed to those who get up early and start drinking booze before breakfast. Whoa. Who stay up all hours of the night drinking themselves into a stupor, making sure their banquets are well furnished with harps and flutes and plenty of wine, but they'll have nothing to do with the work of God. Pay no mind to what he is doing. Therefore my people will end up in exile because they don't know the score. Their big men will starve to death and the common people die of thirst. Sheol developed a huge appetite, swallowing people non-stop. Big people and little people alike, down the gullet, to say nothing of all the drunks. The down and out on a par with a high and mighty, windbag boasters crumpled, flaccid, and as our punctured bladder. But by working justice, God of the army angels will be a mountain. By working righteousness, holy God will show what holy is. The lambs will graze as if they owned the place. Kids and calves right at home in the ruins. So who's going to take over? The next generation.
Yes.
Doom to you who use lies to sell evil, who haul sin to market by the truckload, who say, what's God waiting for? Let him get a move on so we can see it. Whatever the Holy of Israel has cooked up, we'd like to check it out. In other words, yeah, if the Holy One is there, if God is really there, then show me. Show me. Doom to you all who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness in place of light and light in place of darkness, who substitute bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Doom to you who think you're smart, who hold such a high opinion of yourselves. All you're good at is drinking. Champion boozers who collect trophies from drinking bouts and then line your pockets with bribes from the guilty who will violate while you violate the rights of the innocents. I wanted to. Yeah. Okay. So this is all talking about individual morality, right? Right? Not necessarily the country, but now it's zeroed in on the individuals. It's about personal morality and piety, as well as social justice and economic inequities. You've got the wealthy class and you've got the poor. And what ends up happening, really what ends up happening, is through this time period, the line of the number of people that have some sort of wealth gets destroyed. And you have a 1% of the people have all the money, 99% are in poverty.
That's what we have now.
That's what we have now.
And it had been like this, both we kind of combined, but then all of a sudden they started grabbing up land, they started this, and people started this, and slowly the delineation went like this. And it would take over 1,000 years for it to start to fix itself. And then it would only go to 2%. By the time the Roman Empire came, it was only about 2% in 98 as opposed to 1 in 99. So, when we talk about the middle class, that's a major change in the world. But I don't know about, most of us would not be in the positions that we are in if we existed in this time. There would be, I can't think of the richest person in Lake City. I don't know who that would be. Or, in fact, Florida. And it would be the rest of us. It'd be that person and then the rest of us.
There'd be no middle class.
There's no middle class, yes. And that really is what is happening here. They've taken everything, and people are just destitute. They have nothing to eat, they have nowhere to live, they have no jobs, there's nothing. But the rich have everything.
They're getting richer.
Yeah.
But have we kind of come back to that? Are we gradually heading that way again?
No, I don't think, we're going back to separation, yes,
That's what I mean.
Yes.
Less middle class.
yes,
More, less of that number up there,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. As they say, the rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer. And the divide is going like this. Like I said, young people today, they can't come up with $50,000, $60,000 to put a down payment on a house. So they've got to rent. If you rent, where does all that equity go? You have, down the drain, you have no equity at all. It goes right to whoever owns the facilities.
But would it help if you had rent to own?
Sure, oh, sure, there's lots of ways economically to do it, yes.
Sometimes they
but-
have that,
But,
yeah.
I-
I don't know.
That does happen some,
Yeah.
but not enough.
oh, yeah, it's, yeah. Well,
I think.
I don't want to put my economics hat on right now, but
The two
there are
houses-
ways that we can fix that.
The two houses that are being built right now, right down the street from us, in that new subdivision.
Yes,
Who's gonna buy them? I think those are spec houses probably,
I think you're right,
and are they gonna sit there empty because nobody can afford them?
probably.
They might rent, some of the ones in my neighborhood, the big companies buy them to rent.
Yes, that's what they do,
That's what you were saying.
Yeah.
earlier.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Well,
I know I get calls every day on my house up in Philadelphia. We'd like to buy your house. I said, "Oh, okay." They said, "Oh, great, what would what's your asking price?" I said, $3 million. Oh, I said, "Well, you asked me what my price was."
Yeah, that's the difference. A $3 million house down here would be an absolute mansion.
Oh, yeah, well, my house up there is not worth $3 million. I told him, $3 million. You give me $3 million, it's yours, you can have it. I know they won't give it to me, but,
The disparity from place to place.
oh, yes, sure, even within the state of Florida, it's disparity. But that's why that circular pattern I'm talking about, we talk about the Gilded Age, and we talk about, the late 1800s and the early 1900s. Then we talk about the 1960s and then the 1980s, and then, it goes just like this. But the same thing happens here. That's just the way that humanity works. But from an economic standpoint, we could fix the problems that we've got. We could fix them. But Joan said I'm not allowed to go into politics, so I'm not.
We don't want you to either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, nobody would vote for me anyway, even my kids. As fire eats stubble and dry grass goes up in smoke, their souls will atrophy, their achievements crumble into dust. So all this stuff that they've accomplished, all this stuff, all these houses that they bought, all this real estate that they have, all this business ventures that they've done, and they've abused the people around them. But they're not going to get by with it. As fire eats the stubble and dry grass goes up in smoke. Have you ever seen dry grass go up in smoke?
Right now, the fires
Yeah.
are rampant in the east and the west.
Their souls will atrophy, their achievements crumble into dust, because they said no to the revelation of God of the angels. Would have nothing to do with the Holy of Israel. That's why God flamed out in anger against his people. Reached out and knocked them down. The mountains trembled as their dead bodies piled up in the streets. Even after that, he was still angry. His fist still raised, ready to hit them again. He raised the flag, signaling a distant nation, whistling for people at the ends of the earth. And here they come, on the run. None drag their feet. No one stumbles. No one sleeps or dawdles. Shirts are on. Pants are buckled. Every boot is spit and polished and tried. Their arrows are sharp. The bows are strung. The hooves on their horses shod. Chariot wheels greased, roaring like a pride of lions. The full-throated roars of young lions. They growl and seize their prey. Drag it off. No rescue for that one. So what's happening?
They're getting attacked.
They are getting attacked. Babylon is,
Yeah, you know, in my notes, I said Assyria. Is it Babylon?
it's Assyria. It's Assyria.
Okay.
But it's going to be Babylon, Assyria, Persia. I mean,
Yeah.
But Babylon was first, correct?
Babylon's first, Persia second.
So wonder why it's
Assyria.
Assyria now instead of Babylon.
I don't know. Well, again, this is over years.
Over a
Okay,
long period of
this
time.
is,
The
these,
future.
this, again, this is not just one author, it's, right? And this is explaining Israel's demise by all these countries. And what it's doing is summarizing it all into these 4 books. The roar of that day, like roar of an ocean billows, long and hard as you like at the land, you'll see nothing but darkness and trouble. Every light in the sky will be blackened out by the clouds.
We don't wanna
And
be
then,
there. Sounds scary.
yeah, and now Uzziah is going to die. This is, now we get interrupted in the story now, okay? Now it goes back to kind of a history lesson. And he's going to have the vision of the temple. And this is going to be similar to Jeremiah and Ezekiel. It's going to be similar to it, but it's going to have a little bit of a different twist to it. In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Master sitting on a throne, high, exalted, and the train of his robes filled the temple. Okay, so how big is this temple? Big.
Big.
All right.
Very big.
Ever encompassing.
So, okay, let's just envision the temple being the size of Fellowship Hall. Okay. He's sitting on the throne, and the train of his robe fills Fellowship Hall. Angel seraphs hovered above him, each with 6 wings. With 2 wings they covered their faces. Why?
Because they can't
'Cause
see
they
God.
can't look at
Yes.
God, yeah.
Right. With their 2 feet, and the 2 they flew, and they called back and forth to one another, "Holy, holy, holy is God of the angels' army. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory."
And we sing that today.
Yes,
We sing it.
sure. Holy, 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 Lord God Almighty.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a pretty song. Isn't it beautiful?
Yeah. The foundations trembled at the sound of the angel voices, And then the whole house filled with smoke. I said, doom! It's doomsday! I'm as good as dead. Every word I've ever spoken is tainted, blasphemous even. And the people I live with talk the same way, using words that corrupt and desecrate. And here I've looked God in the face.
Now, is Isaiah speaking now?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's shifted now. It's now shifted, all right? The scene is shifted from Israel now back to Isaiah. Then one of the angel seraphs flew at me. He held a live coal that he had taken with the tongs from the altar. He touched my mouth with the coal and said, look, this coal has touched your lips. Gone your guilt, your sins wiped out. Then I heard the voice of the Master. Whom shall I send? Who will go for us? I spoke up. I'll go. Send me.
We sing that.
Do we send that one to? That's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Here I am, Lord.
Now, Isaiah speaking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Send me. Send me. He said, go tell this people. Listen hard, but you aren't going to get it. Look hard, and you're not going to catch on. Make these people blockheads with fingers in their ears and blindfolds on their eyes, so they won't see a thing, won't hear a word, so they won't have a clue about what's going on. Yes, so they won't turn around and be made whole. And astonished, I said, well, Master, how long is this going to go on? Until the cities are emptied out and not a soul is left in the cities. Houses empty of people, countryside empty of people, until I, God, get rid of everyone, sending them off, the land totally empty. And even if they should survive, say a tenth, the devastation will start up again. So in other words, all of you, all of you, not single one of you are going to be, not one, gone. You're all gone. And even if some should survive, say a tenth, the devastation will start up again. I'm just going to keep going until it's all done. The country will look like pine and oak forest with every tree cut down. Every tree a stump, a huge field of stumps. But there's a holy seed in those stumps. Dun, dun, dun. During that time, Ahaz, son of Johan, son of Uzziah, was king of Judah. King Rezin of Aram. King Pekah, son of Ramel of Israel, attacked Jerusalem, but the attack sputtered. When the Davidic government learned that Aram had joined forces with Ephraim, that is Israel, Ahaz and his people were badly shaken. They shook like trees. Then God told Isaiah, go and meet Ahaz. Take your son Shir-Jashub. A remnant will follow. Meet him south of the city at the end of the aqueduct where it empties into the upper pool on the road to the public laundry. Tell him, listen, calm down. Don't be afraid and don't panic over these two burnt out cases. Rezim of Abraham and the son of Ramelah, they talk big, but there's nothing in them. Abraham, along with Ephraim, son of Ramelah, had plotted to do you harm. They've conspired against you, saying, let's go to war against Judah, dismember it, take it for ourselves, and set the son of Tabal up as a puppet king over it. But the master says it won't happen. Nothing will come of it, because the capital of Aram is Damascus, and the king of Damascus is a mere man, Rezin. As for Ephraim, in 65 years, it will be rubble. Nothing will be left. And that, in fact, was true. In 65 years, it was completely destroyed. The capital of Ephraim is Samaria, and the king of Samaria is the mere son of Rimelah. If you don't stand in your faith, you won't have a leg to stand on. God spoke again. Ask for a sign from your God. Ask anything. Be extravagant. Ask for the moon. But Ahaz said, I'd never do that. I'd never make demands like that on God. So Isaiah told him, then listen to this, government of David. It's bad enough that you make people tired with your pious, timid hypocrisies, but now you're making God tired. So the master is going to give you a sign anyway. Watch for this. A girl who is presently a virgin will get pregnant. She'll bear a son and name him Emmanuel.
And she did.
By the time the child is 12 years old, able to make moral decisions, the threat of war will be over. Relax, those two kings that have you worried will be out of the picture. But also be warned, God will bring on you and your people and your government a judgment worse than anything since the time the kingdom split when Ephraim left Judah. The king of Assyria is coming. Each kingdom gets worse. Daniel will talk about Babylon, Persia, Assyria, and then finally Rome. In his visions of the four beasts. You've got the same thought processes going on here, but he'll stop at Assyria.
Is this the first place where he actually talks about Jesus being born?
Yes.
It's amazing.
Well, we didn't, trying to remember if he said something earlier on.
But he definitely does.
He
there
does,
when
oh, this one here,
yeah,
yes,
with
this
the
is,
child shall
this
bear
is,
a sign. We call him Emmanuel.
Yes.
Some of our
Oh, yes.
favorite
Yeah.
things.
Yep.
The
But-
last half of verse 9,
yes,
in my version, I like it better. It's the last half of verse 9. It says, if you do not stand firm in your faith, you will not stand at all.
right, NRSV, yep, or NIV,
Yeah,
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 NIV.
and I like that.
yep. You have, in the NIV, it's your faith, right?
Yeah.
In NRSV, it's just faith. If you don't stand firm in faith, you shall not stand at all. I do like the NIV as well. It personalizes it, and that's
In your
probably
faith.
what it is saying.
Mine says, if you will not believe, surely you shall not be established.
Ooh,
It's kind of fancy, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
ask for a sign of God. Ask anything, be extravagant. Ask for the moon. So that's when God will be whistles. That's when God will whistle for the flies at the headwaters of Egypt, and the whistle for the bees in the land of Assyria. So the flies in Egypt, that is a real thing because of the Nile and how it's just not clean. So it always has a bunch of flies. Now, the bees in Assyria, they had a lot of poppy plants, and therefore had a lot of bees. Yes. And they'll come to infest every nook and cranny of this country. There will be no getting away from them, bees and flies. And that's when the master will take the razor, rent it across the Euphrates, the king of Assyria no less, and shave the hair off your heads and genitals, leaving you shamed, exposed, and denuded. He'll shave your beards while he's at it. It'll be a time when our survivors will count themselves lucky to have a cow and a couple of sheep. At least they'll have plenty of milk. Who's ever left in the land will learn to make do with the simplest foods. Curds, say, honey? I think it's whey, isn't it?
Curds and whey,
Yeah,
This says curds and honey.
Yeah.
just curds and honey, yeah. But that's not the end of it. This country that used to be covered with fine vineyards, remember back we started at vineyards, right?
Yeah.
Thousands of them worth millions will revert to a weed patch. Weeds and thorn bushes everywhere, good for nothing except perhaps hunting rabbits. Cattle and sheep will forage as best they can in the fields of weeds, but there won't be a trace of all those fertile, well-tended gardens. Then the Lord said to me, take a large tablet, write on it common characters belonging to Mahar-Shahal-Behez, spoil, speeds, plunder, hurries, and have it attested for me by reliable witness, the priest Uriah and Zechariah, son of Jebechiah, to witness the document. Then I went home to my wife, the prophetess. She conceived and gave birth to a son. Name him Mahasharahashbaz. Before the baby says daddy or mama, the king of Assyria will have plundered the wealth of Damascus and the riches of Samaria. So Assyria then takes over where Babylon left off. God spoke to me again. Because this people has turned its back on gently flowing stream of Sheol and gotten all excited over Rezin, the son of Ramal, I'm stepping in and facing them with the wild floodwaters of the Euphrates. The king of Assyria and all his fanfare, a river and flood, bursting its bank, pouring into Judah, sweeping everything before it, water up to your necks. In other words, floods. A huge wingspan of raging river. Oh, Emmanuel spreading across your land.
wow.
But face the facts, all you oppressors. Then wring your hands. Listen, all of you far and near. Prepare for the worst and wring your hands. Yes, prepare for the worst and wring your hands. Plan and plot all you want. Nothing is going to come of it. All your talk is mere talk, empty words, because when all is said and done, the last word is God, Emmanuel with us. Right?
Yep. And we still say that too.
So now, Isaiah is talking to the invaders. It really is kind of hard to follow, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the circular patterns, again, like I said,
Yeah.
the concepts are there, but to follow it is really quite tough. Okay. The refusal to put God to the test is a common theme in the Old Testament by leaders. Why do you think that is?
Say that again?
It's a common theme for the leaders to put the Lord to test, put the God to the test. Why do you think that is?
They're testing.
Yeah.
Testing.
Why would they be afraid to put God to the test?
God would win.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be careful what you ask for, right?
Yeah.
And they're smart enough to understand that. Oh, wait a second. I'm dealing with God now. I better be careful. I better be careful. Yeah. The Lord's offer of a sign must refer to a sign. It's a signal of reassurance, but you know, the king sees what's going on all around him. He sees all this stuff and says, you know, hey, I better be careful. I better be careful of what's going on. And then I think that's where we're going to stop. Yeah, I think that's where we're going to stop. 8:11. Yeah, because he's going to grab everybody.
It's
All right.
amazing. It's amazing to me how much of Isaiah is found in our hymns.
Oh, yes. Oh, well, that's why they call it the fifth gospel. Yeah, it has a lot of stuff in it. And I'm not doing it nearly the justice that it needs to give, but I'll try to slow down when we get to spots like this. But this is more of a dialogue, talking back and forth dialogue, so it's not a lot of things that you can say. The dialogue speaks for itself.
I've studied this book before because I see my notes, but I'm learning more this time than I ever did when I studied it the first time.
Well,
Well, you always find something else.
always find something new. That's right. I've preached the lectionary a few times, and each time I come up with something that I didn't know. So
Yeah,
That's why it's a living Bible.
that's right. Living Word of God. That's
yeah,
right.
That part of the chapter about send me,
Yeah.
Tony Campella came to our church in '04.
Oh yeah.
I have a note, and that
Oh,
was
man.
his passage he used.
Wow.
And,
Tony Campella.
uh-huh.
He was quite a preacher. He was he came
Y'all remember
he came
that?
from
Any of y'all
Philadelphia.
there?
He came from Philadelphia,
Oh, really? Uh-huh.
and he taught at Eastern College, and he was quite the person. When I was in my teens and 20s, he was the big youth pastor up there, and it's Friday, but Sunday's coming. Oh baby. I heard that sermon, and I was just mesmerized. I'd never heard anything like it. Never heard anything like it. Whew. Whew. It's Friday,
And I grew up
Sunday's
really
coming.
Yeah,
right? Have you heard his story about that?
I haven't, I
No?
don't think.
Oh, boy. Well, I may bring that one in, because that in fact, that was one of the turning points in my life. to hear that sermon.
It's
Just-
Friday, but Sunday's coming.
It's Friday, but
I
Sunday's
like
coming.
that. Yeah.
And it's a story about him. And he's at the Baptist church, and he's been invited to speak there, and this old pastor is sitting there, and Tony's given his all, just giving his all. And he got done, he says, "Son, are you done?" "Yes." "It's Friday, but Sunday's coming." Right? Tony Capallo, "What?" "It's Friday, but Sunday's coming." And then the pastor just went, and it's incredible. I'll have to bring it. I'll play it for you. It's, for me, it was a life-changing experience for me. I don't know if it will be for you, but it was for me. But, all right, we'll start at 8:11 next week, I hope. And if we can, that's great. If I'm getting a transplant,
That's better.
we've got the technology so I can lead Bible study and session meetings
From the hospital.
from where I am, so.
From rehab, yeah.
So we might miss a week, but, well, next week is not Thanksgiving.
It's
The
the
week
week,
before
yeah,
Thanksgiving.
probably next week, probably won't, will we have it the next week after?
So there's no dinners next.
No, that's right, we
next
won't
2
have it
weeks.
the next week, because it'll be the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, but this coming week, we will have it,
Yeah,
yeah. And then we won't,
we'll be gone.
the Tuesday before
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving,
Yeah, next Tuesday we'll be here,
Yes,
yeah.
Next Tuesday,
we'll be here.
we'll be here, hopefully, yeah.
and then probably won't be until
The
the
week
new
after,
year?
no,
No,
after Thanksgiving.
December, first week of December. Well,
Oh.
just depending on,
Yeah, well, that's what I say, depending upon you.
Yeah.
if all goes well, the first week of December.
We hope we're not here.
That's right.
Well,
Is it getting that close for you?
I don't know, they did not,
Last year?
what's that? I'm still in the live stream, let's pray. Gracious God, we do give you great thanks for these incredible words, these living words that you've given to us. Even now, today, we look at them and we can still find value in them. We still find knowledge in them. We find teaching in them. We find wisdom in them. Lord, open our eyes that we might see, our ears that we might hear. But Lord, make it so our hearts might feel these words, so that we can put them into action as we leave this place. Lord, let us be the light that shines to your community. Let us be the beacon on the top of the hill that you've placed us on, so that we might further your kingdom. Let us not fall into the traps of so many people so many times. Let us keep our eye on the prize. Let us keep our eye on you. Let us be led by you. Let us not be led astray by words of other people. Let us continually listen to you and your word. So guide us as we go through this week. Be with those that are in need. For those that are feeling low, bring them high. For those that are sick, make them healthy. For those that are feeling lonely, give them the gift of friendship. For those that are in need, may they have the hospitality that they need and find. So gracious God, be with us now. Strengthen us, uphold us. Hold us in the palm of your hand, for we know that in your hands we are safe, we are sound, we are secure, and we can accomplish anything if you are with us.